Hello guys, welcome to a new video on my channel. This will be the last video regarding the new features of swiftui 4. In today's video, we're gonna take a look at the new grid API, the new gauge, share link, and ViewThatFits controls or views, and we're gonna look at how to use the new AnyLayout, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the layout protocol, but I will do another video on how to create new layouts with the new layout protocol. The new grid API lets us create shape layouts with ease. Before this update, you could obtain the same result by combining VStack and HStack, but it was harder, and I have a tutorial regarding creating grid layouts, the calculator series. Later this year we're gonna refactor that and we'll use the grid. The first step is to insert the grid view in our body variable, but first let's remove everything inside it. As you can see, grid receives three parameters: the alignment, which can be one of the values displayed over here. I will select center. For the horizontal space we're gonna use 10, and for the vertical spacing we're gonna use 10 again. For the content we need to use a grid row. For the items I will use rectangles of different colors. I will copy this 2 times, like this, and I will use blue and green. Let's refresh. And as you can see, we have a row that stretches. Let's resize that by using a frame. It's still a little bit bigger, so I will say 300, and I will also give it some padding. Let's add a new row by using the grid row. And in this one, let's put one rectangle. As you can see, the grid has defined 3 columns. If we want to make the column in the second row as large as the grid, we need to apply at grid row level the grid cell column modifier. Let's do that. As you can see, it receives a count, and here we need to specify how many columns should this cell span. Let's try. Now, as you can see, the rectangle spans 2 columns. Let's make the column span the full width of the grid by adding here 3. Also, we can use grids in grids to obtain different results. So let's add another grid row, and inside it we're gonna add a new grid, and inside this grid we're gonna add a grid row that will contain 2 rectangles. As you can see, the 2 rectangles are inside the first column. Let's span them to the full width of the first grid, like this, and we can obtain some interesting layouts. You can play with this to obtain different results, but as a high level, this is how you work with the new grid API. I can see here I made a mistake. I said 10 and I added 19. Let's correct that. and now it looks a little bit better. First, let's clean up the body. We won't need this grid. Next, we're gonna take a look at the gauge view. This view was introduced with this new version of swiftui. Will help us to display progress in different ways. The default way to display a gauge is the linear way. Let's try it out. We'll select this initializer, and first we can pass a value 25, and for the label we're gonna use a text, and we'll name this loading. Let me add the padding, and as you can see, now we have a progress that is filled, and this is because we need to define a range between, in our case, 0 and 100. This is done by adding here a new parameter that is a range between 0 and 100, and now as you can see, the progress adjusts to only 25% of that 100. We can customize it more. We can display the current value and the minimum and maximum values that are displayed. The first step will be to move the values, the value and the interval of minimum and maximum, to some variables. We're gonna use 3 state variables. Now we have everything set in variables. Let's replace them. And as you can see, we still have the same result. Let's wrap everything into a VStack. We'll add here a text. Here we can add the current value as a label, like this, and we're gonna use a text, and we'll pass the current label. We will need to convert it to an int. Like this, and as you can see, now we have the current value displayed in the bottom. We can do the same for the minimum and maximum values. The property is called minimum value label, and we can add it here and use the same text, but we'll replace the current value with the minimum value that we defined on top. Yes, and if we define the minimum value label, we need also to define the maximum value label, and we'll do the same operation over here. And as you can see now, in the left we have the minimum label and on the right the maximum label. Earlier I said that the linear style is the default style for displaying a gauge. We can change that by using the gauge style modifier, and for that let's use another gauge. Actually, I will copy this part over here. And let's apply a new gauge style, and I will select accessory circular, and let's change its color by using the tint modifier. Let's select blue, and we can also use a foreground color to change the color of the current value. I will also make it blue. It seems it doesn't work. Let me just do it like this. And yes, in this way it works. Also, let me make it bold, and now it's easier to read. And this is how you can use the gauge view to display progress in various ways. The accessory circular, it will be very handy for creating lock screen widgets. The next topic will be the new share link control introduced in iOS 16 that will help display a share sheet view with ease. First, let's delete the code from the previous video. There are multiple initializers for this share link. For this video we're gonna use just one, the one with the item. This item will receive an URL. Like this, and as content we're gonna pass text with the label share me. Let's hit save, and of course, because this is optional and I'm sure this string exists, I will unwrap it. Let's wait for the preview to refresh, and as you can see, now we have the share me button. If I click on it, it will open this sharing interface. You can customize more the share link, but this is enough to start using it. ViewThatFits is a special view that adapts to the available space by using the first child that fits in it. This could be very useful to create personalized layouts that are dependent to the available space. Let's start coding an example. And the first thing we need to add is ViewThatFitsView. We'll remove this text from over here. And as you saw, the initializer has a content that will be a view inside. We're gonna use two rectangles, a yellow one with the width of 500 and the height of 100, and the second one, it will be blue with the width of 300 and the same height as the previous one. Let's do that. I will just copy this one. And let's make the first one 700. So in no way it could fit in the portrait mode. Let's make this bigger. And as you can see, now we see the blue one, the one with the width of 300. And if we change the orientation, as you can see, we see the yellow one. This is how ViewThatFits works, exactly as in this example. It will choose every time the view that fits in the available space. And this is all you need to know to use ViewThatFits. Now we're gonna talk about the last topic, AnyLayout and layout protocol. This is straight from the Apple documentation. So AnyLayout is a type erased instance of the layout protocol. You should use AnyLayout instance to dynamically change the type of the layout container without destroying the state of the subviews. Before, you could do something similar by using if statements in swiftui, but the views were destroyed and everything was re-rendered and recreated, and applying animation, it was hard. By using AnyLayout, you could achieve this easily, as we will see in the next example. First, let's create an H tag. This H tag will contain 3 circles. Also, let's give a frame like this. Now we have our circles. Let's create a state variable. This will be false by default. And we created this is open because when we're gonna click on the layout, we're gonna change that layout and also apply animation to it. We're gonna change it from a Z stack to an H stack and apply a nice animation. For that, here inside the body, we're gonna create a variable let, and we'll call it layout. And if is open is true, we're gonna use AnyLayout to wrap our new layout. And if it's open, we're gonna use the new H stack layout. And if it's closed, we're gonna use the Z stack layout. And all we need to do is to replace this H stack with the layout and apply the animation. So the animation, let's say, is in, and the value would be is open. And of course it doesn't work because we can do this by having a button. I will put it straight on the layout, so we'll say tap. On tap gesture, we'll toggle the is open variable. Let's see how this works. And as you can see, we have the nice animation and the layout changes from a Z stack to an H stack. This is how you use AnyLayout, but we're gonna explore more on the layout protocol by creating a custom layout in another video. And with this, we end today's video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you're not subscribed and want to receive more news as I post, consider to hit the subscribe button and also the bell to be notified in time. Until the next time, I wish you all the best.